We're back at it again with another little community cast. Looks like we're doing some community cast Monday, 1v1 here, Empire versus Norsca. This one's sent in to us from Andrew in Germany. Andrew, thank you very much for your submission. As always, guys, if you do have any replays you want me to put up on the channel, please go ahead and send them over to Italianspartacus@gmail.com. I'll put them up on the channel, cast them, all do sorts of fun things. Now, let's take a look at our very fun Empire list here against some Norsca. Hopefully we'll get to this before the actual battle gets going. Now, we do have a front line here of staggered spearmen. Then we have Free Company Militia, which are really good here because... Now, I've always been a huge fan of Free Company Militia, but the biggest thing about them is that you do have the... I guess the dual role of them, right? You have their range capabilities. You have their ability to really be decent melee combatants, and I really like them in a lot of matchups. Here against Norsca, I feel like they're really strong because they can really beat against they can beat against normal Marauders pretty well. So two units of Free Company Militia, some Sigmar Sons, which are your great and always fun swordsman unit, Regiment of Renown, because they have Unbreakable, but a little bit better stat line than your normal swordsman. Now, just a normal unit of great swords. You have you have Boris Todbringer here on an interesting choice. He's on a Pegasus. Now, the way I look at this is that they're just trying to maximize your total amount of points spent here, and it's a pretty... Andrew's actually sent me multiple builds here, and he actually always uses Boris on a Pegasus, so it's a pretty interesting little choice here, and I actually kind of like it because he still has, you know, the White Cloak of Ulrich, which is going to be doing some minus melee attack and -2 speed, but also the Midland Runefang, which is so huge. It's what makes him very competitive because it makes him, or allows him to regenerate. And we also have a Bright Wizard with Screaming Skull, with Flaming Sword of Ruin, and with Cascading Fire Cloak, and then an awesome choice, the Warrior Priest of Sigmar. Sigmar right there on his collar. Now he's gone with every single ability here as well. And then lastly, the big boy in the band, the Templehof LUMINARK. Take a look at this big badass Emperor Karl Franzia. Slap that bag. Now you know what this thing is going to shoot at. In fact, I'm going to pause it so we don't miss its first shot. Let's go ahead over here and... It's like I already knew where it's going to shoot. So the Frostworm is going to be obviously the big target here. We are playing against Norsca. More often than not, you want that LUMINARK firing against anything that is a large, big, beautiful target. Frostworm, a War Mammoth, anything like that that's going to be taken down hard and heavy. A Frost Giant, anything that's going to really just get decimated by it. But the Outriders are already starting to launch some grenades into these Marauders, doing a little bit of damage right off the bat. Just a good little initial foray, little skirmish fight. But we do have a front line of Marauders here, all the way over here as well. Then some Berserkers right there. We have not a Famir, but a Shaman Sorcerer of Death with Soul Blight, as well as Fate of Buna. For some reason, I kept thinking that was Aspect of the Dreadlord. But yes, Fate of Buna here. The ultimate deleter of worlds, able to delete one high-class unit. You want to typically use this against Altdorf Griffites, any of those Hippogriff Knights that you're really terrified against. Now, reinforcing the Berserkers, an always famous choice is the Famir with great weapons on both flanks, both portions, including the Mist Stalkers here. Mist Stalkers are pretty nifty because they have... Focus in on it so we can get the actual ability. Boom. From the Mist, which gives them -22%, or a plus 22% to missile resist, which is huge here because if you are fighting against Empire, you're going to be dealing with a lot of gunpowder. You're going to be dealing with a lot of artillery here. So this gives you that chance to kind of really have some staying power into the backfield. So we also have a unit of Marauder Spearmen here to kind of help defend that middle line. And then we have our Lord of Marauders himself, Wulfric the Wanderer. And for those of you watching Game of Thrones, he looks exactly like you-know-who. Now, Wulfric is really great here because he does have his Hunter of Champions, -30 to armor, -46 to melee defense, and he himself, at 490 weapon strength, he is a beater of worlds. True to the form for the lore, he can just rip off the head of another lord. In the lore, it's kind of funny because he can actually curse at someone in their native tongue, as if he was a native speaker. So it's a kind of a cool little lore tidbit. It's how he kind of always pulls people into engagements. Let's get this LUMINARK going here, huh? I want this thing to shoot now. So, interesting choice here. The LUMINARK is not very commonly chosen against... Let's follow that guy slowly as it makes its way across field. I did forget to talk about the Knights of the Blazing Sun. They are here as well, as well as some vanguarding Marauder horsemen with throwing axes. Now watch how much damage this thing's going to do. it's going to miss. But you see, that's called just dramatic emphasis, right? The next one, I promise, will do plenty of damage. The LUMINARK is quite the deleter here. If you use this against vampire counts at 1462, it's going to do a considerable amount of weapon damage. If it hits dead on, as it might right here, who knows, the dramatic emphasis is all about, oh, boom. That is a quarter of its health in one shot. So you really have to worry about what the LUMINARK is firing at. Is it going to take grip on one of your units? Are you going to get in the back line, just like this with one of these Marauder Horsemen? Now, the Marauder Horsemen are mucked up pretty well here by these Spearmen, used on great advantage. You do have to be careful here. Kind of talking a little bit more about that LUMINARK as it fires off another shot here. You have the Frostworm. It is netted down by Nets of Amantak. This is really, really, really bad here for that Frostworm. It is not going to like what's coming its way, hot and heavy. Now, talking about this Templehof LUMINARK, it does have 40 armor and it does have 18 melee defense. So if something gets in melee against this thing, it is going to be so punishing. Oh! Boom! Another quarter health gone. That Frostworm, huge amount of point investment from the Norsca army, has been deleted almost immediately. Norsca and Ice Wolves getting up and close and personal with these Knights of the Blazing Sun here. Then also getting caught up with these Marauders, these Berserkers, these Mistwalkers. Really bad catch up for them. But fear not, the Knights of the Blazing Sun are a very mobile unit. You have these Marauders charging into the Free Company Militia. You have another unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in to reinforce them, trying to alleviate that damage as much as possible. Moving those great swords in with those Marauders, it's going to mulch through them quite quickly here. Now, he does have to be careful here, because if Andrew gets Hunter of Champions triggered on Boris Todbringer, he can be in a pretty bad shape pretty quickly. But you see this unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun has routed off the table as the Marauder Spearmen go to make contact with the left side of the flank. Knights of the Blazing Sun kind of rallying through back and forth, kind of trying to make sure they can keep that LUMINARK defended at all times here. Going to fire off again. Boom! Right into these Famir. Uh-oh. What's kicking off right here? Flaming Sword of Ruin. An excellent choice against lightly armored Marauders like this, but it is paying a heavy toll. It's ripping through a lot of his army, which is lightly armored, and that's not great. You do not want that flaming sword, that flaming head. Did I say called a flaming head of ruin? I'm sticking with it. You don't want that flaming skull ripping into your lightly armored units like that. You want it focused predominantly down the line where it can do the majority of its damage against, again, lightly armored units. Now you have that Shaman Sorcerer here getting surrounded by the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Ooh, Soulfire kicking off with this Warrior Priest in the front line, leading that charge, keeping those Great Swords in good tack, keeping those Spearmen held heavy. Now you can see that these Marauder Berserkers are starting to rampage here, but the Famir have a new target. It is these Free Company Militia who are just going to get their heads beat in by the Mistwalkers. LUMINARK shooting off, boom, over with these Famir. Now Andrew's just choosing targets that are a little bit heavier of a threat right now. You're better off not putting. Oh man, you can see this Right Wizard is in a world of hurt here. Every swing of Wulfric's sword is just knocking him down heavier, harder and heavier. Man, look at that thing. It's going crazy. The LUMINARK is, of course, what has a bound spell here that allows them to have that Net of Amantak. Boom, right there, kicking into those Stalkers, helping those Knights of the Blazing Sun keep them locked down as the longest wind-up animation. Bwah! Just knocks down one of those Famirs outright. Hits some of those Norsca Ice Wolves. A really great choice here because there's not many more options that Andrew has for that LUMINARK. It has to be targeted on something that's going to deal a lot of damage to it. Oh, Boris Todbringer going right in here. Now again, remember, this thing cannot take much melee damage. If it does, it will be in a world of hurt, hard, heavy, and fast. So he has to keep that LUMINARK kind of running around. But again, he's using that LUMINARK to hit the only really slow, cumbersome moving objects he can, which is the Famir. Putting it onto Wulfric is a little bit harder of a choice here. Using those, oh! Boris coming in again here. Soulfire ripping through the back line here as well. You can really see, I mean, those Marauders have gotten their match against this unit of Great Swords. It's been able to pretty much 2v1 them, which has been pretty awesome. This LUMINARK, again, just kind of running around, getting those Marauder Horsemen on them. Boris Todbringer jumping onto Wulfric. And it's looking like a pretty foregone conclusion here. The balance of power is starting to shift pretty heavily in the favor of the the Empire, almost called them the Templars. You've got Flaming Sword of Ruin over here. Can't see what it was. But I think as a last vestige, the Bright Wizard were able to get off one final spell as it came back here at that last little minute. The Famir have their target as they just kind of beat the Bright Wizard's shields like a drum. Boris Todbringer staying on Wulfric. LUMINARK trying to kite these guys around as best he can. They are getting into melee combat, which is, again, as we've talked about, a very dicey situation for them. The Warrior Priest kind of holding the line. Shield of Faith keeping that damage resistance down. Going to finish off these Famir Great Warriors. Kind of back out here, take a look at everything again. Getting those Knights of the Blazing Sun to kind of muck up the rest of those Modern Horsemen is a good shot. Using these Spearmen to kind of stop and kind of hang up Wulfric the Wanderer. Boris Todbringer kind of dancing around. Ooh, Hunter of Champions is on him. And you can see that LUMINARK just buzzed the tower of Wulfric. Uh-oh. Wulfric's in bad shape. The rest of his army's kind of routing off here. He has been netted down. And I think the LUMINARK is starting to charge up or something. Look at that. Look at that clear shot. Oh. Free Company Militia pouring in. LUMINARK. Oh, man. And there it goes. You saw that leadership just tank, too? Woo! And that pretty much capitulates them right there. That makes a big win for the Empire against Norsca. And again, guys, remember, this is a community cast. Andrew has sent us in from Germany, as you can see, at Das Imperium. If you guys have any ones that you want to send in, please send them on over to us. I'll try to make Monday like a community cast Monday, so we'll get these 2 or 3 quick battles out for you guys that have sent them across the way to us. Let's take a look at that battle report here, huh? So, I mean, just big standout items right here, of course, right? 193 kills in these great swords, 160 kills on those berserkers. Let's just talk about those 2 units right there. That's a hard counter for both. Great swords are really great at mulching up the majority of Norscan front line. They can really put it to Marauders. They can even go toe-to-toe with Marauder Berserkers, even though they're going to be dealing a little bit more damage. They don't have the armor to really match up, or the AP to match up against great swords, so they can do quite a bit. Now, the Marauder Berserkers, on the other hand, are meant to eat up stuff like Spearmen, stuff like Spearman Shields, stuff like Sigmar's Son, Swordsmen. They can do quite a bit of damage to the entirety of the Empire front line. Not less included, of course. God, my mouth right there. The Free Company Militia. So 193, great use there. Now this is the unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun that got caught out right in the very beginning. Not too much use out of them, but you saw this unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun kind of reaping a tally throughout the entirety of that end game, trying to keep that LUMINARK screened and in heavy and good health the entirety of the fight. I mean, it only got 9 kills, but it was able to put that Frostworm out of commission hard, heavy, and fast. That Frostworm has got that aura, it's got Frostbite, it's got Terror, so it's a really big thing against Empire here. You can really do quite a bit of damage with that, so it was knocked out pretty quick and heavy. Now, Boris Todbringer was able to harry the line, get into those fights that were crucial. The Bright Wizard was helping to buff the line, keep the line really solidified, as well as using a Burning Skull that didn't get as much damage, but it still got a nice 30 kills out. The Warrior Priest, a nice 35 kills with some Soulfire and keeping the line nice and buffed up with that plus 22% damage to, or bonus to damage resistance. But gotta say, this was a really, really, really fun fight. You had 50 whopping kills out of Wulfric here as he had 2 of his little seafarer barges just ripping through the line. Really great damage against lightly armored as well. The very first one, which we unfortunately didn't catch, was actually predominantly against great swords, which is not going to do a ton of damage to them because they are a armored unit. But overall, an amazing fight here, guys. Thanks so much, Andrew, for sending this in. And thank you guys for watching here today. We have plenty of goodies coming out here for you this week. Lots of quick battles, lots of lore, so stay tuned for that. But as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below, subscribe, but have a good one, and take care.